Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of Growing in Mindfulness. I am your guide for the week, Jenny here. So week 2, we're talking about planting the garden. What are the weeds that we want to watch out for? What are the seeds that we want to plant and grow into beautiful, lovely flowers? So moving right along. In for the overview of this course, if you weren't here last week, we talked about preparing the garden. And in the week, we discussed if you're starting a garden, you would normally start with some sort of a soil sample and a soil test to see what is in your soil and what the soil might need for an amendment, which is just like, how do you make the soil the best that it can possibly be? So the things that we focused on are mindfulness is a very good way to create lovely, rich soil, as is play and curiosity and having a growth mindset. So those were kind of the focus of last week. This week we're going to talk about bad habits and nuts, which I'll go into what nuts are. And then what is it that we want more of in our life to help nourish us? In week 3, so on Tuesday, the 20th, we're going to talk about self-compassion. So how do we water and nourish those things that we want more of in our life? And then week 4 is on harvest and savoring, giving thanks. Okay, so we started with a brief welcoming. I'm going to skip through that. Last week, we discussed how to create a container for our group here. And so in this group, just recognizing that it's a safe place to share whatever's on your mind and on your heart, and that what you say here stays here, that we aren't here to give advice, but to really just listen to one another and be there for each other. It's a place where you can feel connected, and I just ask that when you're here to be engaged and honest, share what's true for you, and to have a willingness to be vulnerable and really maybe kind of open up that heart that we often try and protect. And okay, so we started with an activity on values. And so I'm briefly going to go over that, but I'm not going to pause and take too much time on it. So what are some values and goals? Those are the things that we really want to grow more of in our lives. And then we looked at bad habits and nuts, and those would be the weeds that we want to watch out for. So to start, we did an activity where we were thinking about the seeds that we want to plant. So in this activity, basically what we did is we talked about values. So if you were just to create a list of things in your life that you feel are of high value to you, of great importance to you, what would you put on that list? And then everybody actually did that, created their list. And then from the list, they took and kind of numbered, like, these are my absolutes. These are very important to me. I require these in my life. And then everybody shared theirs, and then we talked about how could you make those more of a priority, and what would it take to grow these things in your life. So I'm going to show you this, although I'm not sure. Yeah, you can't really read that. So I'll just go over some of them. A lot of people mentioned family and health and friends, relationships in general, connecting with others being really important. Spirituality came up, growth came up, nature, creativity, curiosity, being challenged, being independent, adventure, honesty. Those were all things that quite a few people shared. And then we kind of had a discussion around if those are your values, do you feel like those are things that you're putting like making a priority? And what might it look like if you made them, to make them a priority? Okay. So moving to the next slide. Now we're on to our weeds. So what I want everyone to remember, because I think this is super important, your garden, in your garden, you want to grow your seeds. So the seeds are really where we want the focus to be. And again, we're going to help bring these things into fruition. We're going to help them to grow because we're going to bring mindfulness to those things. We're going to bring that play and curiosity and a beginner's mindset to it, and just really like notice and tune in to these things that we're like, oh, I want more of this in my life. So really trying to bring those things into focus. All right. So the weeds, what do we want to watch out for? I shared that in my garden about a week or so ago, there was this beautiful plant that I had successfully transplanted from our neighborhood. I do what I like to call a plant relocation service, and I bring lovely plants into my yard that I want to have there, like ferns and irises and stuff like that. So anyway, I had brought this plant in. It's growing, it's lush, it's beautiful. And I'm like, oh no, it's hawksweed. Well, if you don't know what hawksweed is, it's this lovely little plant that has these beautiful kind of red-orange flowers. It looks actually like this. It kind of has a shape like that. And it's poisonous to other plants. So it is an invasive species. And people bring it in because they're like, oh, beautiful, it's so lovely. Much like some of our habits and some of our the things that we have in our lives that we're like, oh, this really isn't good for me, but damn it, I want this in my life. It makes me feel alive, or whatever it is. And so we all have those, right? Like we all have those things that we're like, I'd probably be better off if this wasn't part of my life, but for whatever reason I feel like I need it. So that's the hawksweed. That's what the hawksweed is. It represents those weeds that we want to watch out for. So maybe some of those bad habits that we're like, yeah, so I bite my nails, whatever. It helps me manage my stress. Or so I drink wine. It brings me into a state of calm in this crazy world that I live in. Whatever it is, whatever you notice in yourself that might be a habit or something that you feel a little dependent on. I really like eating chips, even though I know they're not super great for me. So I want to bring some science into this, because one thing that habits make us feel is bad about ourselves, right? Like, oh, dang it, I'm doing that again. Why do I always fall back on drinking or eating these chips or smoking or, whatever it is? Why do I always fall back on that? Well, those things are, habits come from this place of we do something. So I'm just going to use eating chips because I love eating chips and I eat too many of them if they're around. So when I see chips, like yesterday when I was at the grocery store, I walked down the chip aisle and I'm like, oh, my brain is releasing dopamine going, oh yeah, you want those chips. They're really delicious. They're giving you, this fat that you need. It's super important. And it's hard. We know that that's happening, and that dopamine is actually a chemical that our brain releases that's a go get it chemical. It's a motivating chemical. So when we release that, our body is going to react and be like, I need that, right? So part of bringing mindfulness to this is knowing that this is a reaction that my body does, and we can bring mindfulness to it and recognize it, and then we can respond to it versus just getting into our loop of an event, I see the chip, I crave it, that dopamine gets released, I have these physical sensations, I start salivating, I'm like, oh my gosh, my stomach's rumbling, I'm really hungry. I eat it, reward, relief, right? That's the cycle. And so what we can do with mindfulness is we can interrupt that cycle. And so I want to quickly share, this is if you can see my hand, this is my, whoopsie daisy. This is my model of the brain. So we've got lizard brain, and then we've got our prefrontal cortex and cortex area, which is our reasoning brain. And a lot of times when we are just reacting to some sort of stimulus, or we're responding to a stressful situation, we go into our lizard brain, and this is what's in control. And we're just reacting. Bam, bam, bam. There's not thought connected to it. And so by bringing mindfulness to it, like, oh, this is what's going on with me right now, we're able to come back to the reasoning. The reasoning gets kicked offline when this guy is in charge. So we come back to what's going on? How am I feeling? How's that making me feel? Boom, we're back here to where we can reason through things. And so this idea, this brain model comes from Dan Siegel. And then the other idea that I want to stress here is the idea of surfing the urge. So we know dopamine's going to get released. We know that we're going to have uncomfortable physical sensations, whether it is that I'm angry and I'm getting really hot right now, and my heart is going thump, 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 thump. And really what I want to do is run away, or I want to just like, bam, burst. But what I can do instead is I can recognize that this sensation is occurring because of my little chemicals being released. I know it's going to pass, and so I'm going to surf the urge. I know that this discomfort is not going to stay, and so I surf the urge. I stay with that sense of this is a craving and it's going to pass. And I can breathe into it, bring curiosity into it, what's going on, and I can get through it. And I know that I can get through that without that reward, without going to this place of reward. Super quick, I want to bring this in because I am running out of time. I was listening to a TED Talk, and I'm totally going to forget the guy's name, but I loved what he said. He is a scientist researcher. They were studying people who were trying to quit smoking. And he said, I want you to smoke, and I want you to bring mindfulness into the practice. So as you're smoking, be really conscious, not subconscious, not thinking. Be really conscious of what you're experiencing. And he talked to, they talked to then the people that were part of this study afterwards. And this woman said, it tasted like chemicals and the smoke smelled horrible. Yuck. And so just the idea of bringing an awareness to that was enough to show this person that this is yucky. I do not want this. It's not something that I want to have in my life. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one because I'm so going to run out of time. Dang it. Got 15 seconds. Nuts. Negative unconscious thoughts. I don't have time for this. I'm not good at this. I can't possibly do such and such. I'm going to have to do another